that that's what we typically talk about. So that is colorism, interracial colorism, as well as interracial colorism. And we're going to be talking about some of that today, because today we are deconstructing colorism, and we're talking about how to love the skin that you're in. So let me tell you about our guest today. Chika Okoro is a speaker, woman of color champion, and self-love advocate. Passionate about race and gender issues, she's excited to help women of color develop their inner confidence and combat the negative messages that society often throws at them. Chika earned her undergraduate degree at Harvard University, where she wrote her honors thesis on Black identity in America. She earned her master's degree at Stanford University, where she gave her TEDx talk, Confessions of a D-Girl, Colorism and Global Standards of Beauty, confronting the damaging effects that colorism has on women and girls. That talk has been viewed over 1 million times all over the world. Chika has since been featured on BET, the Stew podcast, and Red Table Talk, where she tackles topics such as self-love, self-worth, and imposter syndrome, and shares how others can also conquer these obstacles in their lives. So we want to welcome two beautiful color conversations, the beautiful Chika Okoro. Welcome, my sister.
Hi, thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to be able to talk to you today about colorism and about your experiences with colorism. So I want to start off by you kind of explaining about your TED Talk and letting us know how that came about and about the actual Straight Outta Compton casting call. If you could kind of give us some background on that.
Yes, so it came about almost accidentally in a way. So in my grad program, we had a public speaking course, and I've always enjoyed public speaking. And in that course, you can talk about anything you wanted. And I've always been interested in race and identity. I studied that in college. And so I knew that I wanted to give my talk around something surrounding race. And so the summer before that class was supposed to begin, I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about. Coincidentally, that was also the summer that Straight Outta Compton came out. And I truly did love that movie. I truly did see it in theaters 3 times because I'm from outside of LA. So I loved how that movie was, telling the stories of Black people in LA. It was a majority Black cast. And I just personally felt very seen and empowered through that movie. And so you can just imagine just how devastating it is, or it was, when I heard the casting call scandal. I saw it on Facebook. It was, this whole scandal. Look at this discriminatory casting call. And it was so just disheartening. And just that juxtaposition, how before I felt very seen and, valued through the movie, but then to see this casting call and realize that not all Black people are as valued. And so I'll do just a quick summary of what that casting call said. It ranked the women extras that were in the movie from A to D, A being the most desirable, and the A girls were described as the hottest of the hot models, listed all these ethnicities, did not list Black. And then it goes down to the B girls, and the B girls, the prototype was Beyonce, which everyone is like, how is Beyonce a B girl? And the B girls said you had to have light skin, long, real hair, super thin, model type. Then the C girls could have been medium skin tone. It's okay if you're wearing a weave, but your hair still needs to be long. And then the D girls with the darker skin, poor and out of shape. And so just to see how just literally written in black and white, a clear value judgment, based on hair type and skin tone. And it was just so disheartening that this movie that at first I thought was empowering to really see what was going on behind the scenes. And just with how deeply I felt that betrayal, I'm like, that is what I want to give my talk about. And so I, developed this talk and for the class, and the professor is a TED speaker. And so he invited me to reprise that talk for the conference.
Wow, that's amazing. And it was an amazing talk. And I want to advise anyone that's watching us to go to YouTube and to watch that talk. It was absolutely amazing. And you also in that talk talked about seeing how young girls, how children are being conditioned to think that the lighter your skin, when they did the study with who's the pretty girl, when they had the little girl there, and who's the pretty girl, and she picked the white girl, and who's the smart girl, and she picked the white girl, and who's the ugly girl, she picked the dark skinned black girl. Yeah. And so it is so important that we understand what's happening in our communities, and that we are focused on making sure that our girls who are coming up understand their importance and their value, and that we continue to really impress that upon them. So that talk was amazing. And not only would I recommend that our audience go see that talk, but also have your young girls watch that talk, because Chika was really amazing with it. And you'll have the opportunity to be able to have your girls exposed to what's happening, but to know that there is a young, beautiful Black woman out here telling them that they are beautiful. So that TED Talk was done in 2016. Mm-hmm. Do you see a change in what's happening with colorism since that time?
Yeah, there definitely has been some changes, I would say, in representation in two ways. I have been seeing more representation in the media. One show that I point to that I love is Insecure, where the two main characters are brown-skinned women.
Right.
Rarely do you see that. Usually the main character is much lighter skin, and she might have her, darker skin friend, her brown skin sidekick. But here, for those that watch Insecure, Molly and Issa are both dark skin. Rarely do you see that, right? So that's definitely progress. Even, I'm seeing progress in terms of products. Fenty completely changed the beauty game. So now all brands know that they need to have products that appeal to women of all shades. Because also, when you don't have products for you, that also leads to this feeling of an erasure and of like, oh, I guess I don't matter. If I go on the shelves and products for me don't exist, that invalidates your lived experience. So I am starting to see that we're seeing products for us. We're seeing products for all hair textures, not just the loose curls. You're seeing products for all textures. So I am starting to see improvements, and I hope it can be sustained.
Yes, that was the next question, is do you think the change will last?
I hope so. I really hope so. I do think that I think there definitely has been some true step function changes. Like I think the beauty industry is forever changed. Like no beauty companies can now get away with not having products that truly fit the needs of everybody. I'm hoping that we can see a sustained change in media. It's weird because it comes in waves. So right now, I feel like we're experiencing what feels like this like renaissance of Black people in media, and I hope it stays. I'm optimistic when
Right.
I see things like the young daughter from Blackish, how she was like the youngest executive producer.
Yes.
And so as she gets older, she will be creating content. And I know Issa is trying to open lots of doors for, other Black content creators. So I'm hoping that will help, things change in the future. Because it's when people like us are making the content,
Right.
that's how you'll see the representation.
Right.
So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yes. Yes. And we have to have optimism. We have to be hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any experiences with colorism as a child or as a teenager? Can you give us some background on any experiences you may have had when you were younger?
Yes, no, it's interesting because I definitely always felt it was something, but I didn't know what the name of it was. Right. So,
Right.
yeah, I remember in high school, because I grew up in a community that there was not that many Black families. I was definitely one of the few. Me and my friends, we were one of the very few.
Mhm.
And, I remember not getting a lot of attention, not getting a lot of attention from the guys. And I'd always thought, oh, well, it's because I'm Black. So once I could put myself in, more Black settings, then maybe I'll have more luck. When you're young, that's on everyone, boy
Right.
crazy like everybody else. And then so when I'll get into more majority Black spaces, still feeling invisible, still feeling overlooked. And I remember like not knowing why. I'm like, oh, are my braids not cute enough? Like, is it how I'm dressed? That I remember there was one particular moment that was almost like the watershed moment. It was me, a friend of mine who's also brown skin, same complexion as me, and our friend, she's half Mexican, half Black, so she's mixed. So
Okay.
she had the light skin, light eyes, loose curls.
Right.
And three of us we're walking through the mall for the pure focus of just trying to get attention. And we're like 14 or something. And
Mhm.
all the guys are making a beeline to my friend that's mixed. Beeline. All the guys are coming straight to her. And my friend, who's brown skin like me, is getting more and more upset. So by the end of the afternoon, she's like, it's not fair. Everyone's just talking to her because she's light skinned. And that was like a light bulb went off of like, oh, that's what's been going on. And it's like, once you see something, you can't unsee it. And so
Right.
now, as I'm in different situations, I'm like, wow, like, yeah, like, everyone's always going to the girl that looks mixed or the girl who looks curls. And like, me and the other brown skin girls are kind of, trying our best to get people's attention, but there's definitely a feeling of being invisible. And so I definitely felt it, I just never knew what it was. And it actually wasn't until I got to college and I took a lot of race, African American studies
Okay.
and critical race theory that I learned, like, oh, there's a name to it. It's called colorism. This is the history. And it's like, oh, that's what it was I had been experiencing all this time.
Right. Right. Now you went to two very prestigious universities.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel like you experienced colorism on the university level with these two prestigious universities, and talk to us about how that may have been with your fellow Black students as well as your fellow white students?
Right. So I feel like I felt it more in college because, like I said, in my grade school through high school, there wasn't that many Black people
Right.
to really see the distinctions. I think it was just we were Black, which means we weren't part of the majority. So then when I got to Harvard, where there was a lot more of us, that there was a pretty robust Black community, but it was robust enough that you can see divisions. You can see
Oh wow.
divisions.
Okay.
And yeah, like it's very clear who are the ones that are sought after. It's very clear who are the ones who are popular. It's really
Right.
clear.
Right.
And then also, while we didn't really have strong fraternities and sororities, we did have other types of social clubs. And once again, when you look, it's like, oh
Wow.
wow, they all look a certain way. So yeah, so definitely saw it playing out. I mean, it wasn't as overt as like, in what you see in the movie School Days. It wasn't as,
Right.
there's no overt brown paper bag
Right.
has, but the legacies of it are still there. Especially, I'll talk to students, or my classmates, and they're in things like Jack and Jill, and they're talking about how, their parents were in different clubs, and it's like, you see the ones who, come from a legacy of privilege and things like that, and it's those that are lighter skin, and it's because it's generational. So definitely saw it playing out there.
Right. Do you see it so much in the work that you do?
In the work that I do, what do you mean?
So I mean, in your job. I mean, your job. I'm
Mm,
sorry. On the job, do
yeah,
you feel like you've experienced it on the job?
yeah, no, great question. No, because I work in marketing at an e-commerce company, and throughout my years being there, I think they've gotten much more conscious and much more aware, and have now, I feel like, really been a part of the diversity and inclusion conversation. Um, and then, they're definitely trying to learn. When I first got there, and they're much smaller, there was definitely an assumption of the types of models that they casted. And when they did cast a Black model, you know, it wasn't someone with braids. It wasn't necessarily someone that was, very brown skinned. They've come a long way since
Okay.
I've been there. When I started, they were smaller, but it's just that there's definitely this preconceived notion. Like, I remember there was a conversation. They're looking at a model, and they're like, "Yeah, but what are we gonna do about her hair? She has braids." I was like, "What is wrong with braids?"
Right.
And so
Right.
we no longer have those conversations anymore, but it just shows that, there is this preconceived notion of, you know, what is on brand, and,
Okay.
what would look appealing. And so, and I think it's a subconscious notion that it's not until you raise someone's consciousness of like, well, why is that a problem?
Right.
Why do all models have to look a certain way? And it's like, oh wait, I didn't think about that. So it's just a testament that a lot of these beliefs are subconscious. And so I'm hoping that with combos like this, it can bring it to the consciousness, so we can then uproot it and unlearn it.
Right. So are you pretty much free to give your input when they have these kinds of things come up? Do you feel free to be able to give your input on it and find out why particular things are happening or not happening?
Yes. So definitely they've been very open and want to learn. And so, to the extent that I'll see things I don't agree with, typically open to having a conversation. That way we can get to a much better place.
Right. That's great. Um,
Mm-hmm.
why do you think colorism seems to be an issue that people do not want to talk about?
Yes, that is a great question. It's definitely something that I've noticed within, just as I've learned about it, and as I try to engage in conversation. I think it's, as a Black community, and I do believe this, is that, we are stronger together.
Right.
And to acknowledge colorism means for us to acknowledge the discrimination within our own community. And it's like, it's almost like you don't want to air your dirty laundry. Like, I don't think we want to admit that even within ourselves, that there are these beliefs, and it's a belief in which, those with proximity to whiteness is advantageous. Like, no one in the Black community wants to admit that, you
Right.
know, but
Right.
but we know it exists. And so by not talking about it is what lets it continue. So I think it's us ourselves just not wanting to come to terms with the internalized racism that is seeped deep within the community.
Right. That is so true. And I think that we we don't not only do we not want to acknowledge it, but having a conversation seems to be a very difficult thing in regard to colorism. People kind of just don't really want to, even like you said, acknowledge that it exists, and they don't, especially don't want to engage in conversation about it. And that's one of the things that I know I have found, is that it's difficult to get people to engage in a conversation about it. And until we're able to have conversations and be able to get to our healing, we're going to continue, in my opinion, we're going to continue to experience it and not be able to really address it. Yet we've got women who are dealing with decades of hurt, as well as our young girls that are coming up and now having to deal with it. And it is it's there and it's visible, but we just push it under the rug. And I think that we really need to get to the place where we're really acknowledging that it exists and that we have to have open conversations so that we can heal.
Yes. Yes. No, it's having that open conversation, because like you said, that is how the healing happens. Because right now it's, like you said, this is generational. It's being passed down. And actually, I was on a webinar conversation either early this week or last week, and we had an older woman on the call, and she was chatting about how she doesn't experience it when she was growing up, but she was like, but when I think of how things are today, I think it's much better. And the rest of us on the call are like, it's definitely still an issue. And it's one of those things where it's like, I wish it were better, I think for her, it is very disheartening that, what she experienced, in the 40s, 50s, is still is, and while it's not as overt, it may not be as overt, she was, had very vivid memories of just very brazen disrespect. While not as overt, the hurt is still there. And that's even what I learned when I gave my talk, and the outpouring of school-age children that reached out to me saying, I relate. And it's like, while I'm glad that my talk was an inspiration, my heart breaks that you still feel this way, that at 13, 14. And that's what really made me very passionate about wanting to talk about this, because it exists. Even though we're not acknowledging it, brown-skinned girls all over the world will tell you that they are made to feel lesser than. And that is going to be devastating to, your development of your self-perception and of your own, self-esteem and self-confidence. And, self-confidence is what you need to propel you through the world. And so if that is stunted at a young age, then, we can't reach our full potential.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how do you think we can effectively work towards eradicating colorism in our communities? We did talk about open conversations and things like that. Do you think there's anything else that we need to be doing or that we can do to help to address the issue?
Yes. Open conversation. And because what that does is it brings it into our consciousness. Because, so much comments are made that's really just the subconscious of like, oh, aren't her light eyes so pretty? Or like, look at her hair, like all these little things, young people soak it up. And while people aren't meaning harm by it, people notice, especially those that are in families where, your siblings are all an array of colors. You can pick up on how different folks are being treated. And so bring it to your consciousness to make sure that you truly are expressing that everyone has value. So making sure that you're expressing that at an early age. And also, really watching what people are exposed to. When I think back to the doll test of the 4-year-old or 5-year-old girl, and how she so quickly is able, or in her mind, is able to label the white doll as pretty and smart. Right. And the darker skinned doll as the opposite. That is learned. Like, that is not an innate belief that we have. And so how can we make sure that we're exposing, young people to examples that look like them? Because I do think it's very harmful if you feel like the representation of yourself is deemed as lesser than. I think that's very harmful. So making sure that we are exposing young people to examples of like them, that they can, that's in a good light, to show that like, hey, this person looks like me and they're beautiful, they're smart, they're valued.
Right. Right.
And so just, having more leaders, even I think a lot of it begins in schools. Not many of us had Black teachers. We often have white teachers. So even, if more people in our community can be teachers, and if we can, put our kids in schools where they can see people in power, people in authority that look like them, I think will have a really big effect.
Absolutely. I think that is so true. And I think that even in the media too, we have to begin to see differences with, like you were saying about television and in the movies and things like that. We've got to begin to see ourselves in the movies. Our young girls have to begin to see the beautiful. I know one of the things that always struck me, Viola Davis saying, why can't I be the love interest? Why can't I be, the woman that is pursued as attractive and beautiful? And it's going to be really important for us to even begin to see ourselves in the media as, and like you said, because I loved, I haven't seen Insecure. I don't watch Insecure, which I'm going to check it out. But even seeing Issa Rae in The Photograph, that movie, it was just wonderful to see a beautiful Black woman being pursued as a love interest and as a beautiful Black woman. And I think so much that we really need to see so much more of that. And our girls need to be able to see so much more of the fact that, yes, we are beautiful and will be acknowledged by our men as being beautiful. So, what would you say to your 8-year-old self or to an 8-year-old girl about their dark skin? What would you say to a 16-year-old? And then what would you say to a 21-year-old?
Yes. To the 8-year-old, I will tell her, or I guess I would tell myself, that you are beautiful, and that you are as beautiful as you are smart, and as you are creative, and as you are a leader. And to never forget that you have so much to offer.
Yes.
So that's how my 8-year-old, or an 8-year-old. To the 16-year-old, I will tell her to not worry at all about what the boys are doing, what the boys are thinking, and to know that, right now is the time to develop yourself. And right now is the time to, try to start to figure out what your passions are. And, 16, some of your best years. So have fun. Have fun with your friends. Have fun starting to learn the things that you're good at and starting to learn the things that you're passionate about. And the right guy will come. So do not waste, don't pay them any mind. Especially at this age, they're silly. You are beautiful. You are smart. Like, this is the beginning of the journey. And to the 21-year-old, I would tell her, this is your time. The world is your oyster. Don't look for the world to validate you. Because the world was never built to validate us.
That's true.
So instead, this is the time for you to validate yourself. And when you do that, and when you love yourself so much that it's overflowing, then the right person will come and scoop up what's overflowing. So I think, at 21, we're done with college, we're out into the world, and I feel like we're like, world, accept me. not, but when you think of the history of the U.S., the
Right.
world was never built to accept us. So,
Right.
21 is I wish that at that time I had the knowledge that everything I needed was within me.
Okay.
And all the love that I was seeking from outside, I had that within me. And, it's only when you love yourself so much that you then can be able to receive the love receive true and unselfish and pure love from someone else.
Right. That is so true. And I think that's such great advice. And for our young people to be able to really tap into that. I know, and when I usually ask that question, it is when you look at it, and I know for myself, because I'm much older than you are. But I know that when I think about how I came up and how I had to address the issues of how I felt about myself, that I think it's so important that we acknowledge all of those different feelings that we have, but that we're able to tap into who we will become. And you saying to the 16-year-old, the world is your oyster. I think that is so profound that at 16, girls start to realize that they have so much. And I think there's so much pressure many times put on young girls about boys and whether or not boys like you. And that's really not the important thing. When you're 16, all of that will come. It will all come with time. And I think it's also important that you surround yourself with people who really value you. And that you find those people who are going to be in your inner circle that are going to value you for who you are and not for what you look like or anything else. That it's a value of who you are as a person, and that you work on who you are as a person, and you become that beautiful, incredible woman that you're destined to be. So I think that was really profound advice that you gave there. So I'm going to ask you. So when you're looking at colorism and you're looking at intraracial versus interracial being among Black people themselves and interracial being outside of our communities, what is your feeling about where we're going to be able to go as far as bridging that gap outside of our communities? We got to fix it first in our community, I know, but even outside of our community, how do we begin to bridge that gap and begin to have conversations outside of our community? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, that's a really good topic. I will say, when we start to embrace it within our community, then I think we'd have firmer ground to stand on to chat about it outside of our community. Because right now, for those on the outside looking in, they're seeing who we value.
Right.
So I think when we are able to embrace all of us within the community, and when we're able to address our internalized racism and root out those feelings, then I think we'll be able to, talk to those outside of our race and really say, why are you placing value in just those that are lighter skinned? Like why are you, placing value in those that who you think have more proximity to you? Then I feel like we would really be able to educate and really show them how it's wrong. It's harder to do that when we too are having those beliefs. I think as we start to root those out, then we'll be able to, confront those same issues of those that are perpetuating outside of our race.
Right, absolutely. Chika, thank you so much for being here and for sharing with us. It's
time up.
Amazing.
Oh man.
Time
went by quick. Time went by quick.
I know it did. It really went by pretty quick. So what I'd like you to do is to give us any last comments that you would have. And please tell us how we'll be able to reach you, for people to contact you if they want to have. I know that you speak and you do some other things in regard to colorism and self-worth and just encouraging women, empowering women to love themselves. So if you could give us just some closing comments and how people can reach you, please do that now.
Yeah, so closing comments is, everything you need is within yourself. I think as a community, we are in need of a lot of healing, and it's very hard to control what's going on outside of us. It's very hard for, big S society to change. What we can control is ourselves and our thoughts and our minds, and just know that you already have all the answers. And as we, as Black women, really start to love ourselves, root out the negative thoughts, and really learn how to validate ourselves, then we'll be able to thrive. So I enjoyed this conversation. You all can find me on Instagram at Chika Okoro 825. That's at ChikaOkoro 825. Follow me, the content I post. Subscribe to my newsletter so you can catch some of my blogs where I go into much more detail into a lot of these topics that we've already touched on here.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. That was amazing. Thank you for joining us, Chika. I'm going to have a few closing comments, but thank you so much for being here. Okay, hold on.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. So that was amazing. That was an amazing conversation with Chika Okoro. I encourage you all to not only see her TED Talk, but that you also connect with her. She has an amazing platform, and we are just so honored that she took the time to be with us here today. We are just so honored to have her and to have been able to have this conversation. And I didn't get a chance to even thank her for purchasing a Color of Beautiful t-shirt. You guys can purchase the I Am the Color of Beautiful t-shirts at thecolorofbeautiful.com. We ask you to go there and please share this broadcast. We ask you to share it so that other people can see it and begin to see the work that we are doing as far as colorism is concerned. Thank you guys again for joining me. Have an incredible, incredible day. Thank you.